good, everyone? Welcome to KGW's 3-on-3 Blazers. My name is Orlando Sanchez. Jared Cowley on my right, Nate Hanson on my left, Max Barr on the ones and twos. We are back, baby. Woo! Off-season mode.
Here we go.
You know, the NBA Finals ends. It's devastating news for the Golden State Warriors, and it's turned into a free-for-all already in terms of it just being open season for the Western Conference. The Lakers don't mess around. They reportedly get the job done. The Brow is on his way to L.A., and then today, Mike Conley joining forces with the Utah Jazz, Jared's favorite team.
The Warriors, the bad news for the Warriors has been great news for the rest of the Western Conference. And you're right, it's wide open season for this upcoming year.
The NBA offseason hasn't even started.
Oh, I know.
It's already on fire.
And to think of all the things we thought about a couple weeks ago that we thought this is going to happen, this is going to happen, this is what it's going to look like. And 2 weeks later, it's already a completely different world. You know, we had the Warriors cruising to a 4 out of 5 championships, and looking really good to make it 5 out of 6, and everyone else probably waiting another year. And now it's win now, let's do it now. Here's our chance.
And teams are definitely pulling the trigger on that.
Absolutely.
As we would say, blood is in the water.
Yeah,
right
my
now,
favorite stat right there.
So, yeah, and now the attention for us is about the upcoming NBA draft. We're a little over 24 hours away, and the Blazers have the 25th pick. So you know how we roll. We have 3 questions. There's 3 of us, so we've got 3 answers. You can catch those on KGW.com as well. So let's jump right into it and then just see where things go, okay?
Yeah.
If the Blazers keep their pick at number 25 and draft a player, what should they look for in their selection?
Well, 2 years ago, they went with 2 big men, in Zach Collins and Caleb Swanigan. Last year, they went with 2 guards, in Anthony Simons and Gary Trent Jr. So by product of elimination, I'm going to say they should probably draft a forward here if they keep the number 25 pick, a 3 or 4 and a 3 and D type player. A guy, because at number 25, if they do use that pick, you're picking a project. You're not picking a guy who's going to come in and help this team, in the next 2 to 3 years probably. And so you're looking for guys who have certain qualities that you think could really fit your team, in 2 to 3 years. And for the Blazers, and just in general with this league, the thing the Blazers have long sought after are 3 and D type players, because Maurice Harkless, inconsistent at that level. Evan Turner, not that type of player. Farouq Aminu can be at times, but again, not consistent. And so they need people who could fill that role in the future. And so that's what I think the Blazers should be looking for, is that 3 and D type of player. And out of the players they've worked out so far, which have been a lot of players, Jared, kudos to you, has the whole list of them on KGW.com. So go and check that one out. But of the guys they've worked out, and Neil Olshey typically drafts guys that have worked out for him, KZ Okpala, I think, fits that mold. I think Dylan Windler could fit that mold definitely as a shooter. And I saw at the workout, he talked about how he wanted to prove he can be a good defensive NBA player. He's definitely got the shooting down. So to me, those are a couple guys that I think could be the type of player the Blazers should look after.
Yeah, I think in an ideal world, you'd love to find a 3 and D player at 25.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of theoretical 3 and D players at that range in this draft. But then I think back to last year and the theoretical 3 and D players that were available in that range, Jacob Evans, Keita Bates-Diop, players like that, and they did nothing as rookies and showed nothing. And so I don't know if I really don't care about position or even roster fit at this spot in the draft. I think that you got to go and look for one bankable NBA skill in a player that you're drafting. And the most important talent and skill in the NBA right now is shooting. So, yeah, if they can play defense, that would be great. And you guys know I care about defense a lot.
Well, and that's something, most college players are not good defensive NBA players. And that's something they learn as they progress through their careers.
Yeah. So what I'm looking for, if the Blazers do use this pick and they draft a guy who at least projects as a good shooter and shot the ball well in college, then I'll be happy. I don't think that whoever they draft is going to come in and make an impact next season. I don't think he'll even play that much. Think about how high we are on Anthony Simons right now. He played 141 minutes last year total, and 48 of those were in the last game of the season.
So less than 100 minutes, really.
And we're really high on that guy.
Yeah.
So I don't think that no matter who they draft, I really don't think that they're going to come in and play almost any minutes and have any kind of an impact. The players I do like, though, and I kind of hope some of these guys might drop to the Blazers because right now they're projected a little bit higher. But I think that mock drafts right now with this draft and this is just a weird draft. I think that some of the players could fall that you think are going to go higher. I like Virginia Tech's Nickeil Alexander-Walker. He's 6'6". He's a guard, but he shot 38% from three in his 2 seasons with the Hokies. He projects well. I like North Carolina's Cam Johnson. He's a senior, 23 years old. He's a little bit older, lacks athleticism. He's like 6'9", pretty skinny, but he shot 46% from three last season. I kind of like Kevin Porter Jr. I'm a little worried about him because he got suspended at USC. He didn't have a great freshman season, but I still think his talent level is probably top 10 in this draft. And you get a guy like that into a good system like the Blazers with a good leader and a good coach. If he drops that far, I think that would be an interesting pick.
That'd be similar to the Anthony Simons pick the Blazers
made
last
except
year.
for I don't think Anthony Simons had the character concerns that you see with Kevin Porter.
In terms of upside and talent,
right?
He fits
absolutely.
that mold.
And then like you, I really like Belmont's Dylan Windler.
Yeah.
He was a senior, so he's a little bit older. He's 6'8". He's kind of a guard forward. He's really skinny, so he's going to have a hard time playing defense even if he wants to. But for his career, he shot 41% from three. Yeah. So it wasn't just like with Cam Johnson, he shot really well as a senior, but he didn't shoot it that well as a junior for North Carolina, so I don't know if that's real. But with Dylan Windler, I think that's a bankable skill. My favorite player, though, he's a bit of a risk, but it's Auburn's Chuma Okeke.
Chuma Okeke.
Okay. He's 6'8". He's you're talking about a potential 3-and-D forward. He's it. He showed really well on defense for Auburn. He shot 39% from three in his 2 seasons for the Tigers. The problem with him and the reason he's dropped down draft boards is he tore his ACL in the tournament.
Yeah.
And so he's going to have to recover from that. You got to see if there are any medical red flags. But I think that he has lottery talent in this draft, and he's just dropped because of that injury. And I think the Blazers could afford at 25 to draft someone like that and wait for him to recover, and maybe he pans out as a really good player down the road.
And it's worth noting for the podcast listeners here, because we just learned this before the podcast, Orlando and I.
I'm glad you're bringing this up.
Yeah, apparently our friend Jared Cowley here has actually picked who the Blazers were going to pick in the first round each of the last 2 years. 2 years ago, apparently he called they were trading up to pick not just someone, to pick Zach Collins. And last year, of all the guys...
As you mentioned, a guy that didn't even come into Portland.
Yeah, exactly. A guy who didn't even work out for the Blazers. So that was a quality pick. And then last year, he picked some guy out of IMG Academy out in Florida, who we now know as Anthony Simons. So Jared, that last name there, say it again so everyone can hear who the Blazers will select tomorrow at the number 20.
That's a wrap, huh?
Yeah.
I don't think I can make a prediction this year.
What?
This draft is too weird.
Jared.
For one thing, the players the Blazers brought in for draft workouts, it's mostly second-round guys.
Yeah.
It's pretty much KZ Okpala is the only consensus first-round pick that they brought in.
Yeah.
Even like Luguentz Dort, he's projected in the first round in some mock drafts and in some rankings and in the second round in others. So it's really hard to tell what the Blazers want to do here. And the only thing that keeps screaming at me is that they want nothing to do with this 25th pick.
I'm glad.
I actually think they are going to trade this pick. If I was going to make a prediction, that's what it would be.
Thank you for saying that. I didn't want to step on your toes. I wanted you to go through. You put a lot of work into this, Jared. And I appreciate that because you made it very clear and understandable for a lot of no-names that people that don't follow college basketball aren't going to know who the heck these guys are.
Yeah.
And so for every pre-draft workout that was coming through the Blazers practice facility in Tualatin, I'm looking at it like, are they taking this thing seriously? Is this a joke? What are you doing with this? And just, as you mentioned, reading the tea leaves and the writing is on the wall that these guys are looking at guys in the second round.
Yeah.
And even a lot of guys that aren't going to be drafted at all.
Yeah, which leads you to believe, man, they really don't
They're
want
trying
this
to fill
pick.
out their summer league roster.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean they got a championship.
Or
to
they're
defend.
trying to find guys with a specific skill, as
Right.
Jared talked about, one specific skill, and may have other areas where they feel they can help them progress and develop. Because as Jared said, this is probably going to be a pick, or if they go in the second round, will definitely be probably a pair of guys who you're not going to really see out there on the court anytime soon. So the idea could be for the Blazers is there's certain qualities they liked in each of these players. Now let's get them in front of us and see maybe if we think we can retool and rework with some of their shortfalls.
Or they might like some of these guys to sign to two-way G League contracts.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's segue into if the Blazers trade that pick. What should they be looking for in their trade return, Jared?
All right, so like I said, looking at the way the Blazers have brought in players, and just looking at this draft, most everyone you talk to, scouts, there's an article on The Athletic right now, and this is a yearly thing where I don't remember the author, but he talks to 5 scouts, and then he takes all of what they say about each prospect and blends it into one paragraph about each prospect. And I went back and read that yesterday, I think, and it made me even more pessimistic about this draft because it was just, they didn't like anyone. I mean, even like the top guys, they were finding, holes and things to jab at them. And it was only Zion Williamson where they were like, and John Morant. And so I think that if you had a dartboard and you had a list of players ranked like 15 to 45 in this draft and you throw a dart, doesn't matter where it lands, you're getting the same player. I mean, that's how weird this draft is. So I think that the Blazers would be perfectly happy trading out of this pick and getting a second-round pick because they know that they're going to get, a similarly talented player at that spot. The ideal scenario would be that the Blazers are able to package one of their large expiring contracts, this pick, maybe even a future first-round pick, to go get that upgrade they've needed for years at forward. So Neil O'Shea should absolutely be calling the Chicago Bulls about Otto Porter.
Oh, Jared, that's your guy.
Darnell
He's your new Nikola Mirotic.
I've loved Otto Porter since last year.
I know.
Right. But
it hasn't been as vocal, though, until recently.
He's declaring his love
at some
for
point
Otto
I had to
Porter
give
right
up
here,
on the
right now.
Mirotic dreams.
Yeah.
So. But I think Otto Porter is a great fit in this lineup, in this offense, with Dame and CJ. I really like him. And Darnell Mayberry reported that everyone except for Lauri Markkanen and Wendell Carter Jr. is available for the Bulls right now. So the Bulls will listen. So if you could go and get a guy like Otto Porter, that's the best case scenario. I don't know if that's realistic, but that's what you'd hope for. If the Blazers really like some of these other players that are, according to reports available, they can reach out to the Cavs about Kevin Love. They could reach out to the Rockets about P.J. Tucker. They could reach out to the Suns about T.J. Warren. If you want, you can call the Timberwolves about Andrew Wiggins. I don't want that, but he's available. So I think that there's an opportunity to maybe do something because they have these expiring contracts. I wouldn't call it likely. If that doesn't work out, then they could trade. If they just want to get off of those large salaries to get under the luxury tax and open up the mid-level for free agency, they could do that. There are teams that could absorb those salaries into space. You tack a first-round pick onto it. That's about what it takes to get off salaries like that. And then you open up a little more flexibility in free agency. Or if they just want to trade and grab a couple second-round picks or a future first-round pick, if they don't like what's there at 25, they could do that. I think there are a lot of possibilities for them to make a trade. And like I said, I think they are going to trade this pick.
Yeah.
I think everything points in that direction. I just don't know what's going to come of it.
We're all in agreement that we think the Blazers are going to trade the 25th pick. That ideal scenario Jerry talked about, while it's all great,
It's a dream.
it's cute, right? It's cute. It's really nice. That's even you, Orlando. You gave me and Jared a hard time in the last podcast about this dream Blazers team we were talking about 14 months from now. But this is even more of a dream world right here, where they're able to attach the 25th pick in this particular draft and go get a player like Otto Porter. I don't really see how that's...
It would take a future first as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And even then, I don't really see...
And I don't really know if the Bulls are interested in trading Otto Porter.
Yeah.
I mean, there's that one report. I haven't seen anything else.
And so, as great as we want it to be, that they could potentially get a guy who could help you right now, because that's the end game for the Blazers right now. That's going to be the mission of this offseason, is get players who can help you right now. Because what we mentioned earlier, the West, for the first time in half a decade, is wide open.
Yeah.
And the Blazers are amongst that group of teams who believe that with the right pieces, they could be the team that emerges next season and represents the Western Conference in the NBA Finals. And so, in an ideal world, yes, that would be what they do, is go trade this first-round pick for a guy who can help you now. But we all seem to be in agreement that's also not going to happen. And I tend to think that they're just going to trade it for a couple second-round picks and throw two darts at the board instead of just one, and hope that one hits on a guy who can end up being a contributor a couple of years down the road.
Increase your odds towards getting a better player. Maybe you're less committed than you would have to be with a first rounder.
Yeah.
And maybe you spend about the same amount of money, or maybe less.
Yeah, I mean, you would spend less money, and those contracts aren't guaranteed like a first round.
I'm a little bit intrigued by the fact that, with the passing of Paul Allen, will the Blazers be more open to taking risks?
Yeah.
Will they be willing to give up even more? We'd heard so much about how much that Paul Allen loved the draft and that he coveted those draft picks. Is that a characteristic that is passed on throughout the organization, that they will still feel the same way?
Is that a culture thing, or is that a Paul Allen thing?
I've always wondered that. And so what stinks for them this year is, you guys mentioned that the value of the 25th pick is even less than it normally would, because this draft is
perceived as weak.
As weaker than years of the past. So that hurts them twice, because now it's like, well, maybe we can do something with this 25th pick, but you need interest as well. And so I think you guys are both right in that if they are able to do something, it's probably just moving back into the draft to get a couple of picks rather than just one. But there's just not that ideal guy that you can get at 25 where it's like, yes, that 3-and-D dude that can make an impact right away. And the only thing I could think of at this point that might be wise would be to get a guy with a little more experience, or a guy that has played more than 1 year, that is not 19 or 20.
That might be more physically built for the NBA, and therefore could potentially help you earlier in the process.
That's your Admiral Schofield.
Yeah, exactly. And he was kind of the darling of the media interviews, if you will, out of all of them, that had a little more personality, that had been through the grind a little bit, and was even able to be charming and mentioned some things about the Blazers organization and Portland as a city and how amazing the tap water is here. So he really worked over the media, which was good to see.
Did he talk about Burgerville though?
Oh, come on! There's only one guy.
I know. I was trying to see if he was reaching that stratosphere. Or not.
It takes time to get to that status.
I think the only thing that could increase the value of this pick, which I think we all agree doesn't have a lot of value, is because there's so much beauty in the eye of the beholder with these. In this draft in particular, if a certain player drops, maybe they're projected to be like a lottery pick and they drop all the way to the Blazers, then another team could be much more interested in that number 25 pick if the right player that they want is there.
That's true.
And so I don't think, if the Blazers are going to make a trade with this pick, I don't think it's going to happen until they're on the clock and they know who's available.
Good point.
Well, that's going to make things exciting for those of us that have deadlines at 6:30 or whatever it is when they're on the clock.
The Blazers won't be on the clock by 6:30.
Oh man! Well, thanks for that.
Yeah.
Okay, now let's talk about something that's a little more interesting here.
Oh, really? We're done with the NBA draft.
Well, we're done. I hope we're done with it.
Man, I like.
Well, you got. Jared loves this.
I do like the draft as well, but it's just having the 25th pick.
Orlando likes the Zion part of the draft.
I want names. I want star power, man. Like, I'm not here for the 25th pick. All right, let's go to number 3. Looking past the draft, what should the Blazers' focus be the rest of the offseason, Nate?
It should be what we just mostly talked about in this last question, trying to find a really good starting forward who can shoot that you can consistently rely on. I mean, that is what the Blazers are missing. And we saw how important it was in the postseason, a la Rodney Hood against Denver, to have someone who can consistently contribute in that way. It takes so much pressure off Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum when there's another shooter out there on the floor who they know can make shots. And Rodney Hood had, in that particular series against Denver, had reached that status. He played so well throughout the entire series that you had to respect him. You had to respect his scoring ability. And Dame didn't shoot very well in that series. And yet the Blazers still came out and won in 7. And it's because they had a third shooter they could rely on. So that's the goal. How can you find a way to get an Otto Porter type player to Portland for this season? Because you're in Dame's prime. You're in CJ's prime. Yusuf Nurkic is going to be out for about half the season. You don't want to waste a season in Dame and CJ's prime waiting for Yusuf Nurkic and waiting for the books to clear next offseason so you might be able to sign a player who fits that mold. And so how do you get that type of player here to Portland? As Jared talked about earlier, it's expiring contracts and future first-round picks. That's about all Portland can do, and maybe Zach Collins or Anthony Simons has some value in that aspect.
Even though they have such limited flexibility, there's still a lot in the air this offseason that maybe we're not used to seeing from the Blazers.
And we've seen how quickly the offseason can change over the last 2 weeks. And we've seen in the past how quickly it can change. You know, we never thought Carmelo to Portland was really that big, that much of an option 2 years ago at the beginning of the summer. And by August, it was either New York was basically holding him hostage from going to Portland, essentially. It was either Portland or bust until Oklahoma City came in and took him on. And so we never know how this will develop. And expiring contracts at least do have, this is the most value. Those Myers Leonard, Evan Turner, and Maurice Harkless contracts have had.
What did Otto Porter get traded for at the deadline?
Expiring contracts.
2 expiring contracts.
Yeah.
They sent Jabari Parker's expiring contract and Bobby Portis Jr.'s expiring contract.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it took to get Otto Porter.
Yes. And I think at the trade deadline is when the Blazers will have the best opportunity to strike with these expiring contracts. The question is, will other teams be willing to take on expiring contracts for the full season, basically telling the fan base we're mailing it in at this point already, as opposed to waiting towards the deadline. But nevertheless, the number one focus this offseason is trying to find a really good 3 or 4.
Yeah. I agree with you, and I think it's much easier said than done.
Oh, 100%.
This is what we were saying in our offseason, preview last year and probably the year before that. They've needed an upgrade at small forward and power forward for years. Again, I agree with you. I think that they should do everything they can to try and use those expiring contracts, future first-round picks, in the right deal. You can put Zach Collins or Anthony Simons in there. If it gets you that big upgrade in your starting lineup, then go for it. I don't know. I mean, I think we're all in agreement that Otto Porter would be a good solution. What do you guys think? Some of these other guys that are apparently available, Kevin Love, yes or no? If you're talking about kind of the same.
How many more years does he have left on his deal?
Like 4, or 3 or 4.
Yeah,
and it's 3 years.
And the question at that point becomes, how all in are you on these next 2 seasons with a guy like Kevin Love?
Yeah.
If you're all in on these next 2, then if you're the front office, you can somehow maneuver a deal to get him here.
That's fair.
Do that and just suck it up for the last year or 2 of that contract.
I wouldn't be mad if it happened.
No, at least you'd be putting all the chips in and saying, here we go.
That many years is scary, though.
It is scary. And it can, look at the Chris Paul contract right now. It can come back and bite you. And Kevin Love's deal probably would.
Yeah.
But at least you're putting all the chips in and saying for a year or 2, maybe even 3 if you're lucky, we're going to have Yusuf Nurkic, Damian Lillard, CJ McCollum, and Kevin Love, and we're going to go for it.
And he seems like he would be a really good fit. You just wish he was a couple of years younger.
So to answer your question, yes, I would be okay with that one.
All right, what about Andrew Wiggins?
Oh gosh,
no. I'm going to say no on that one for me. No way.
And I'm with you.
He hasn't played defense a single game in his NBA career.
He hasn't even.
As much as the culture within the Blazers locker room would help him, I'm still not on board with it.
He's played a total of 4 or 5 playoff games.
Yeah. And he's an inefficient outside shooter that doesn't stop him from chucking up a bunch of outside shots.
Yeah. No, pass on him.
All right.
Give us Kevin Love, apparently.
Yeah. Other than that, it's that you got to decide Farouq Aminu. You know, he's been a big part of the Blazers core, but do you want to commit another 3 or 4 years at probably you're looking at about $10 million a year to bring him back?
No.
I love Aminu, but I don't.
No.
I don't want that commitment.
Consensus.
And that stinks, but yeah. And then you've got to figure out, do the Blazers have enough depth to deal with the lack of use of Nurkic until he comes back? Is Myers Leonard and Zach Collins enough? And if not, then you've got to go bargain shopping, use the veterans minimum exception, and go out and find some center who will play for that little who can fill some of those minutes. But it's a tough offseason. It's a really important offseason because you don't want to slow the momentum of a Western Conference Finals run. But
when the gates seem finally open and other teams seem to be building momentum at the same time too. You don't want to take too far of a step back and possibly miss your opportunity.
It's interesting how this urgency has kind of come out of nowhere, just based on the Warriors.
Not just that, but it's also the Lakers just got a hell of a lot better, and so did the Jazz.
Yeah, makes you nervous. Happy feet around the Western Conference.
And I mean, the Rockets, they're a mess right now, but say they do bring that group back again, I mean, that's still a super talented team, and there's a lot of teams next year who come out in the Western Conference. Think where we were 3 months ago with the use of Nurkic injury. Like
it was doom and gloom. It was all over.
Yeah, it was all over.
There's a little more optimism.
And now look at it now. We're saying if the Blazers could make the right move, they could possibly make the NBA Finals next year, which is an incredible transformation, and which is exactly why you don't just want to sit around, as Jared said, and kind of miss out on this offseason.
And I know you guys are looking at guys that the Blazers can bring in, but the Blazers may have the option to keep at least one of these guys around, whether that's Rodney Hood, Enes Kanter, even Seth Curry to some. And I like how Mike Richmond even was talking about this with NBC Sports Northwest, was that I know that everyone is pretty much sold on the idea that Enes Kanter is gone and they're not going to be able to pay him what he may be worth on the market, but he's like, there's still a chance that the Blazers could end up saying, you know what, we value him, especially because Yusuf Nurkic is going to be out for a long time. They're going to need to stay afloat, and we've seen the way that Terry Stotts feels about Myers Leonard. So there may be that need that trumps maybe bringing back a guy like Rodney Hood.
Could be.
Yeah, it's just, again, it's the financial part with Enes Kanter, If they're going to keep him, they have to find a way to get rid of some money that they currently have on the books.
So to bring it full circle again, that's kind of why the draft does matter.
Yeah.
Because if they can chip away at that mid-level, to get
they have to get rid of $2 to $3 million.
They only need to shed about $2 million. So that could be accomplished by making a lopsided trade where someone else is able to absorb that salary, or, and I don't think this is a good option, they could waive and stretch one of these players. And that puts dead money on your books going forward, but it also does get you under that luxury tax and opens up the full mid-level. You can get a good player with the full mid-level.
Could you imagine if they somehow brought Enes Kanter back? How happy the fan, at least just from a pure fan base perspective, how happy the fan base
would be. There might be a small parade.
Yeah, exactly. A block party.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that'd be nice.
I mean, I think this is going to be a fascinating offseason.
It is.
And it might just end up being, I think I say that before every offseason.
Yeah.
And then
because it is. It just doesn't involve the Blazers.
Last year, I believe it was going to be, I said it was going to be the offseason of changes for the Blazers. We saw how that went. And that is, I mean, you mentioned Neil Olshey in terms of risk of trading first-round picks, but just in general, what level of risk is he willing to take?
Totally.
Is he willing to take on Kevin Love's long contract, knowing that it will probably come back to bite them in the end, but taking that risk for the immediate payoff? Because we saw last year he didn't overreact to underperformance in the postseason. How's he going to react
bargain shopping, baby?
How's he going to react this year to probably overperformance last year in the playoffs? That's a good question.
Yeah.
We good, guys?
I guess. Where's the ribbon? We feel empty. Max, you need to say something before we leave.
Do you have any wise thoughts for us, Max?
Since Jared bailed on his prediction this year.
Yeah, what is that?
No, I made a prediction.
I think
predicted they're going to trade the pick.
Yes, he predicted they're going to get rid of his pick.
Okiki in the second round.
Okiki, there we go. There's the name right there. There we go.
That's the Auburn guy?
Yeah, Auburn was devastated when he went down.
Yeah.
That hurt.
Bruce Pearl.
He's awesome. Go watch some highlights.
I think it's a great conversation you guys just had. I don't have much to add. One guy I do like in the draft is Matisse Thybulle from Washington.
I've been a big fan of that guy.
3.5 steals, 2.3 blocks per game. kind of jumps out. That's an elite skill that Nate, you were talking about.
Yeah.
The man can play defense. I don't know if he's going to drop to the Blazers,
But
but
he's a Husky.
he is.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Pac-12 leader in steals, man.
Yeah, broke Gary Payton's all-time record.
Yep,
So
no doubt. He's legit.
I like him.
Yeah.
Where's he expected to go?
Around where the Blazers are drafting.
Oh.
He might be there.
No, maybe Max will be the one this year.
So I do
the
think he
prediction.
has a bankable NBA skill. I think that even though like his defense was in that Washington zone, so I don't know how well it projects to the NBA. I do think he's a really good defender, and I also think what did we see a lot of in the NBA Finals from the Raptors? We saw a lot of zone defense.
Mm-hmm.
That might be something that you see more NBA teams adopt here and there going forward.
Well, there you go, Lewis King. He's coming here now.
Lewis King.
He's staying here, man.
All right, what do you think about Lewis King, Max? 'Cause
Yeah,
I know
you're a Duck.
you're a Ducks fan. And what do you think about Bol?
I love Bol Bol. Lewis King, I don't know. I'd be surprised if he gets really drafted.
Yeah.
Maybe
I think-
late second
I think
round.
he'll go in the second round.
Yeah. So thought
Would
he came
you
out
be
too
happy
soon.
if the Blazers, if Bol dropped to 25, would
And
you
the
be
Blazers
happy with
drafted
that?
him, I would be ecstatic.
Nice.
I
Like
think
Bol Bol.
everyone would
Like,
be
what if Bol Bol is
ecstatic.
around in like the 15 to 20 range? Like, do the Blazers try and go up to get him?
Nah, probably.
That's a
not.
big risk, like
I'm
you're
really
talking about.
concerned
But
about bringing another big man with injury.
he's
concerns.
absolutely
Yeah,
not a
of
guy
course.
who's going to help you right away. I mean, the best case scenario is a similar, like, meteoric rise to Giannis Antetokounmpo. I mean, he could be a superstar.
Sure.
He could be an often injured, just a guy.
Yeah.
So,
Should be fun.
but he was awesome in the few games he played for the Ducks.
And even they played a lot of really bad teams in that 9-game stretch, but they also played 3 tournament teams.
Yeah.
And I went and actually looked up his stats in those 3 games, and they were almost identical to his stats overall. So it's not like he, got
Feasted.
fat on really bad teams and then struggled against quality opponents. He played well against those good teams too.
So, can we just skip the NBA draft and go right to NBA free agency?
I would love that.
Yeah, can we just skip to July 1st?
I'm not skipping the NBA draft.
Jared's not skipping.
I'm going to watch it and love every minute of it tomorrow.
We're going to be back next week, right,
Yep.
to talk about what happened. And
To talk about the number 25 pick Orlando says he's not here for. We're going to talk about that player.
I'll be forced.
Now personified
I will
in
be here
person.
for work.
Yeah, now personified in person.
Orlando kind of jokingly glossed over this, but the Blazers have a Summer League title to defend.
That is
I
true.
mean, this is a big deal.
And
Summer League champions.
Yeah.
I'd rather
Well, they
I'd rather cover Summer League.
Are we sending you to Vegas?
Gosh, dude, don't
Anthony-
tease me like that. I would love that, man.
Anthony Simons is going to be the scoring title champ of the summer.
Oh,
league.
he's
Oh,
going to
man,
be.
I hope so.
He better be going.
I
for
hope he's
MVP.
got that
I
green
really
light, dude.
look forward to seeing him in Summer League, and I want to see what Scal can do in Summer League
Yes.
too for the Blazers.
It's going to be that team that started in that last game out there.
Plus Scal as a replacement for our favorite 16 draft pick?
Swanigan?
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
It was 2017,
2017.
2 years ago.
All right, guys. Well, we'll be back when the Blazers acquire Kevin Love.
There we
We'll
go.
break that all down.
If
we'll
the
decide-
Blazers acquire Kevin Love, I promise we'll be back.
What if they acquire Otto Porter Jr., Jared?
My head
Oh,
will explode into
how
the
quickly-
emergency.
How
It's an
quickly will
emergency
we
podcast.
put the podcast
Yeah,
out?
he might do the
Solo.
podcast solo.
Yeah.
He'll produce it.
Have his own rip it questions.
It'll be all out for that one, man, and maybe even in memoriam to your last guy,
Meritage.
Meritage. We can finally put that one to sleep.
Yeah.
But, all right, guys. So where can we get the podcast?
You can find it anywhere you find your podcasts. Go to Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Play. And we're gonna get it on Spotify soon. That's gonna
Nice.
be coming. So anywhere
Cool.
you find your podcast, put it there. You'll find it. Search 3on3 Blazers and you got it.
What's your Twitter handle?
At Jared Cowley.
I'm at Orlando KGW.
I'm at nhands_KGW.
Max, let the people know.
At Max in Bar. At twitter.com.
That's what
Woo! All right, y'all. Thanks for rocking with us.
That down,
I
am
never
right?
will.
We'll be back here
Nor should I.
better next week, hopefully.
You may have won a rip it championship, but you still dropped that.
Thank you. See ya.